All right. So this marks day one of 100 days recording and posting 100 pieces or 100 minutes of content here. And my name is Francis Waldecker. You'll find out more about me if you choose to stick around. If you don't, that's totally fine. I'm doing this more for me, right? So let's kind of get into this 100 days of content. I've been in marketing now, internet marketing for the last 10 years, mostly work with course creators, coaches, um, mainly in copywriting, but doing media buying and kind of everything in between. On there, I've worked with dozens of clients on somewhere around like $10 million or so in revenue for different clients, things like that. It's not a ton to some people, and it is to other people. And that's something that I've really kind of wrestled with a lot and why I haven't made content in the past before, because I always look up to these other marketers, business titans that have done way more than me. Like, who am I to make content and do content, put stuff out there? And really, this actually comes from Alex Hormozy, and you'll start to learn pretty quick. I love Alex Hormozy. He makes some great stuff. I think he's a great business mind, but more than anything is how his content had helped me reshape my thinking around business and content, right? Because what I find most interesting is that, like, I love Alex Hormozy and everything he's done. I think it's so cool, but I also have zero interest in getting to the level that Alex Hormozy does, because I simply don't have the same sort of love and obsession with the game of business that he does. I love learning things, and learning new and different things, right? So my areas of interest are much more varied. And I know that'll mean that I won't ever reach levels of hundreds of $1 million in revenue and stuff like that. Or if I do, it's going to be something that it sounds like fun to do at the time. But I always thought that kind of precluded me from making content, talking about different things and, doing self promotion, stuff like that. When the reality is, I was looking for I was trying to make content about stuff I didn't actually care about or want to make content around. Like, I don't want to make content about growing a business to tens of millions of dollars and scaling things and all that kind of stuff. And a lot more of what I've realized and what I'm going to do, what I'm trying to do with all of this, you just never know if it's going to work out, but we're going to put in the inputs, right? So that's what I'm doing 100 days, recording 100 minutes of content every single day. I'm going to post it raw on YouTube, just everything unedited, including the pauses and the ums and ahs and things like that. And I'm also going to take that and cut it into smaller clips that I'm going to post over all of my social media. And I'm doing this to learn how to be better on camera, right? And it's something that I see all the time with people in business or just starting any new endeavor. It's that inability to suck at something for a little bit. And that's okay, right? I remember a long time ago, I used to love sucking at something. I love learning new things. I used to be a huge nutrition nerd. I still am, big fitness nerd. And I would sit and read research papers for hours, like actual like peer reviewed studies. I have no clue what these papers are talking about. So every other sentence, I'd be looking up a word or a phrase or a term or something like that, which would send me down a rabbit hole. I would spend the next half hour learning about this new thing before coming back to the original paper. And it became this fun, I don't even know what to call it, spider web of activity that really just satisfied my brain and made me like really excited to learn more about nutrition. I did like a lot of really cool stuff personally in fitness, putting on close to 70 pounds of muscle over 10 years, lifting to a very high degree. I never competed or anything like that, but I was very strong for my size, did everything like that. And it was all because I was just curious about this topic and wanted to get better and learn more about it. And something happened, over the last years when I became an entrepreneur, freelancer. I correctly class myself as a freelancer over the last 10 years. I haven't built any big businesses or done anything like that. And I hate when people, don't hate, I think it's silly when people talk about being the CEO in the business. It's like, you're freelancing. It's okay. That's fine. That's a great thing to do. Let's just not put up these kind of false pretenses, right? And I think that's, I fell into that trap too. You get into this world of online marketing where so much of um, what goes on is this what I call copy and paste marketing, where, people are completely ripping off other people's stuff or Right. using it as inspiration to such a high degree that, it basically looks like a paint by numbers from the original person. Some people just completely stole it. But also we got this whole wild world of coaching that was, hey, just copy all of this and you're going to have a business. But the problem is half the time it didn't work. Because a lot of times people miss some of those core components, like having a really good offer, being really good at what you do, and then just the amount of work that you have to put in to actually make it work, even if you have the different copies that you can go off and the templates and all that kind of stuff. And then the other problem too is a lot of times when these coaches, business owners hit on something that worked, now everybody's doing it within a few short months, and that whole kind of philosophy and method no longer is that effective, or it's effective to a lesser degree, where you have to then have all these other different business knowledge systems and things in place on the back end that they don't talk about. That's the real reason why they're being successful here. And it's created this kind of environment, at least in a lot of the spaces that I'm familiar with and areas of the internet that I know, that have these people that just like, I don't know, like it's awesome. It's awesome that we have the ability and the means that we can do this and have like these freedoms. Obviously, like I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done for the last 10 years if it wasn't for all these coaches and things like that. But I think it's time for a change. I think it is changing, right? The time is here and it is happening where people are getting fed up and just kind of disenfranchised with how internet marketing has evolved, right? It's no longer the wild, wild west. It's more getting to be like, I don't know, a rundown theme park where everybody sees the commercials and knows that, well, the rides aren't that pretty anymore and they're definitely not as fun. So I'm going to pass here. Or, what I think is even worse is that it's become different for new people in the space, right? I see so many of these people trying to follow the strategies, methods, and templates, right? Like we'll stick with strategies and methods. These strategies and methods of these gurus and these coaches, not realizing that part of the reason their stuff works is because of the brand that they already have, because of the name recognition that they have in the industry, or all these other factors that will mean that the person buying the program is going to struggle with or have a more difficult time because it's not all that covered. And that's okay, right? Because I think one of the things that we often forget with this new kind of coaching industry that we're in, people are teaching very specific things that they're really good at. And it's not necessarily the whole thing, right? Like a lot of us are used to traditional school and college, whether you went or not to college, but just the whole traditional school system. You had many teachers teaching different subjects that they were an expert in. And that's how you kind of got that quote unquote well-rounded education. And depending on what you got that degree in, you had varying levels of success with that. But the fact remains is you had multiple people teaching you multiple things over the course of several years to have this kind of complete skill set. And so often now we see these offers and programs and people just selling something that's, 90 days to 100K or, whatever the crazy, crazy offers that we've gotten to. And it's just not accurate, right? It is for some people and other people, not as much. And I'm going off on a tangent here that I really don't have an ending for. So I'm going to close it off by saying like, hey, that's kind of the fun of me doing this 100 days of content thing, because I'm honestly doing it as much for me, and probably even more so for me in the beginning part, as it is for actually producing stuff that people are going to see and resonate with for a few reasons. One, mainly, is like I recognize that I'm a nobody in so much as like I haven't produced a lot of content, right? I've written several million words of copy for clients over the years. Grammarly says 10 million, but I think they're exaggerating, but I feel like it's double counting some stuff. So we'll just say several million. And I know what I'm doing, right? And I know it. I've been successful, but articulating that, right, in words versus writing things down where I can sit and play with ideas and change sentences and stuff like that. It's a whole different skill set. It's a whole different skill set. So I'm probably not going to be very great at this for a while, right? Um, I'm sure that not many people are going to even make it this far into the video, and that's okay because I'm documenting this process for me, right? Doing this 100 days of content is largely for me and proving to myself and showing myself that I can do it and seeing what happens if I put focused, measurable inputs over a decent amount of time, right? And this, again, like I said, comes from Alex Hormozi's Rule of 100, which I absolutely love. And I've been trying to think of a way that I can do it effectively for like my new offer, my new stuff. And I think this is going to be the best way. And I have no idea, but it's going to be interesting. And I'm going to learn a lot over the next 100 days. And that's what I'm really focusing on right now, because as I sit here recording this, I am, all sweaty. I've got this huge like vice grips on my chest right now. And I really don't want to do this. Like I've been putting this off all morning. And like, even so, like I decided to do this about 2-ish weeks ago and put off doing it maybe 3 weeks ago, something like that. But I put it off. I was afraid. I was like, oh my God, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say, but I'm doing it. And I think that's the most important thing that we need to relearn as entrepreneurs or people who, want to make our own money, however you want to do it, freelancing, solopreneur, whatever it is. It's committing to an action, it's committing to something and doing it for a long enough period of time to see what the results are and if you actually get results from it, right? Because I think that's the other thing with this whole copy and paste marketing, instant gratification world is too often we think that doing it the first time or doing it a few times, we should see these incredible results, right? I mean, like how often do you see ads for content courses or people that'll create content for you that promise you to go viral and get millions of views and stuff like that? And half the time works, sometimes it doesn't, who really knows? But more often than not, like you're not going to get millions of views right away or thousands of views right away. And that's okay, right? And what has really helped reframe my thinking in that, even though I'm only getting to the action part now, but we'll come back to that. What's an amazing way to rethink about shooting content is like, let's imagine you only had 15 people watch your video, right? Wow, that sounds like an abysmal failure, like on any social platform, right? Like if you only get 15 people viewing your video, you probably think that you're shadow banned and something's got to be wrong. But what if you have 15 people in your living room or your office or a conference room who are interested in what you had to say? That's a decent amount of people. I don't remember the last time I spoke to 15 people real life, and be like, hey, here's my stuff. Talk to, listen to what I have to say. So that's a decent out. Now let's jump it up to like 80 people or 150 people, right? You see so many people on TikTok kind of talking about being stuck around 200 views. I don't know, 200 views, 200 people listening to what I have to say, interested in what I have to say, even if they don't hear all of it. That's pretty impressive when you think about it. I mean, like that's a small auditorium, that's takes me back to drama class as a kid or choir class as a kid and having to put on those performances at the Christmas concert or where else. But, like 200 people is pretty good, right? And it's one of those where you can still build a business off of getting 200 people to view your content. I know a guy who is big on content automation. And for a long time, I haven't checked lately, but for a long time, the guy was only getting, 50, 150, 200 views per video, but he was building like, I think it was like a $50,000 a month business off of that, right? So you don't need a ton of views. You really don't. You just need the right content. And I think it takes time to figure out that right content too. Like I know whenever I work with a client to write a sales page or email or anything like that with them, it takes me time to figure out what that right content is that's going to be in there. And I usually rewrite the stuff at least twice, maybe 3 times, sometimes like from the beginning, or just I'm getting through. And then all of a sudden I have an epiphany. I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't the right thing. This is. Now I have to go back. And that's easy to do when you're writing stuff and the shitty first draft, the bad parts are all, just on your screen, only that you can see as you're writing, you can clean out. And then when you actually present and put out in the world, it's this nice polished thing. Recording content, not the same, right? And I know some people talk about scripting it and, they've got the different teleprompters and things like that. And sure, you can do that. Haven't met many people who are good at reading off a teleprompter, and it's pretty obvious. And I think that also misses the point of what content is supposed to be today. Not supposed to be, but what people want from content today. Like if you spend any kind of time on social media at all, especially YouTube and TikTok, I think those are kind of best right now as far as interests. Find new things that you're interested in. Facebook and Instagram are still very heavily of the follower graph. And, I still see a lot of stuff of the same thing. Although I think Reels is getting better. I think Instagram Reels is getting better. But again, I don't play on that very much, which we'll get back to in a second here. The main point that I was trying to make that I completely forgot. So, when you're recording content, I mean, perfect point here. Like I've just kind of stumbled through that last part. Wasn't really sure what I was trying to get at, kind of went off in the wrong direction. And now I'm coming back to saying, hey, the main thing that people want now is just face in front of the camera, you and me right here. I know I'm recording this, so you're not actually here, but hey, if you're here at some point, thank you. Appreciate that. Face in front of the camera, just talking, right? Sharing what you know, your experiences, what you've learned in business or whatever thing that you're really good at that you're talking about, whether it's underwater basket weaving, skydiving. I follow a lot of traveler creators who just share the different places they go and travel tips and things like that. It doesn't really matter. It's just people really, really are interested in the lives of everybody else. I mean, look how big reality TV was. I'm 34, so, I grew up with MTV at the height of when they transitioned from music videos to like all the reality TV stuff. And like The Bachelor first came out and Bachelorette first came out when I was younger. And I know that was just huge all over the place. So what it really says is like people are really desperate for just normal, everyday people living lives. And not even necessarily normal, like anything. Like, I mean, oh my gosh, the weird stuff that I come across. I found a guy who had a somewhat decent, like quite a few thousand followers, and he is a software engineer in the like municipal software space, right? Which basically he helps cities and towns like creates the software they need to run. Like you're talking like water treatment plants, I don't know, stopping go lights, stuff like that. That you're just like, oh my God, I didn't even think that was a thing, which sounds just so totally off the wall. As an industry, I'm just like, oh my God, that definitely is. And the thing is, I only care about because it's kind of cool, but like most of us don't really care about software engineering or really what's going on at a municipal level on that, right? So like, why would you ever create content about that? Oh, because there are tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, municipal city workers who do care about that to some degree, or like use his content to help make their city or their job or their life a little bit easier, better, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people forget when they are recording content and falling in this trap of wanting or needing to go viral, is realizing that most, not most, a lot of the really interesting things and probably the most interesting parts about you that will really pull people into your audience are not, are not, excuse me, too much sparkling water. Most of the things that are really interesting about you that people latch onto and make them gravitate towards you is not stuff that's going to go viral, right? Because when you take a step back, and I'm big about second, third order thinking and second, third order consequences, right? Like, and what that means is let's think about the answer or the solution, but then also like, what are the ramifications of that solution 2 and 3 steps removed, right? So like, I want to go viral is a solution, but to go viral, you have to water down your message so that is appealing to the widest possible audience, right? That's the only way that you can go viral on these platforms, is if you create something that is widely appealing. And unless you're selling, widgets that you can buy on Walmart or off Amazon, you probably don't have that many buyers, right? Like, you could get 1 million views, but like, do anywhere near 1 million people like buy your specific things? Yeah, like your total addressable market could be that large for sure, but your current product, your current infrastructure can't handle 1 million views or isn't appropriate for 1 million views. Like, imagine, let's say you have a 5% conversion rate. So every 100 people who like would see your stuff, 5 of them buy, like, let's even say like 1%, like 100 people see your stuff on TikTok, 1 person buys, right? How much is that if we're talking 1 million? And my math is going to be a lot easier than what I'm making out, but I'm doing the count there. 10,000, right? Think that's right. Even if it's only 1,000, could you handle 10,000 new customers in the next 24 hours, the next 72 hours, the next week? I sure as heck couldn't. Like, my business would completely break. My offer would completely fall apart if I tried to put on board 10,000 people, right? Like, man, I would be very happy and very content hitting 15 clients right now and capping it there. Then I get to work on building my business and reconfiguring things and putting the systems in place so that I can then grow to the next level without it being this huge stressful thing. Because that's another thing that I've seen over and over and over again in the little corner of the internet that I've been in with the whole internet marketing and online coaching thing, is we have this, I don't even know what to call it, because it's not really a desire, right? Because I never had the desire to just grow and scale a business to multiple millions of dollars a month or $10 million a year, anything like that, until I got into this online coaching world. Like, I originally started doing this and started freelancing simply because I hated working for someone else. Like, I'd never held a job for more than a year, and I just, every job I got into, like, I didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. There was always stupid things we have to do. I'm like, I don't understand why we're doing this. There's a better way that I know would work more. And that's why I got into it. Like, I wanted that time freedom. I wanted that freedom to choose what I do and when I do it and who I do it with. And, if that means I make less money because of that, that's totally fine with me, because I have other things I'm interested in, right? Like, one of my goals this year is to start my own little food forest, garden type of thing in my yard. I bought a house last year, and now I want to start growing my own food because, again, I was a nutritioner. I know like how crappy our food system is. And that's something that sounds a lot more fun to me than learning how to add an extra $50,000 a month to my business, right? So if I can optimize and create a business that allows me to do those things and do those other things, that's what I'm looking for, right? So I think, what do I think? Going back to the viral thing. So I am against virality in the beginning. Like, it's cool if it happens. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, anytime you have something go viral, love views, it's really good feedback because it means you hit on something that a lot of people are interested in. But it's in no way something that I'm actually trying to do. Instead, I'm trying to put out content that I think people who have my similar ideas, beliefs about business, beliefs about the way they want to live their life, resonate and attach with. Because it's really, and TikTok has really helped me to see this, which is interesting because of the way Facebook and Instagram has worked for so many years, being a follower graph. You get into these echo chambers of groups of people and you just see their stuff over and over and over again. So you start to think, or at least I started to think, and based on conversations with other people, I think this is kind of true largely across the board for a lot of people, enough people, that, shoot, I lost my train of thought again. A second. Well, that comes back, hopefully. That's kind of why I'm doing the whole raw thing on YouTube. I've had a bunch of people say, "Oh my God, don't do that. At least cut out the pauses and things like that." I'm like, no, I don't want to do that because I'm making this for me because I want to see my own progression over time. I want to see those pauses and those flaws and where I go, "Oh my God, I forgot what I was going to say. I want to see all of that because I want to see how I improve over time." And I don't know how you might think, but I think like this. I know other people think like this. I am always so focused on what I can fix, what I can do better, what I can still improve, that I forget how far I've come, right? So like I've got this kind of constant internal dialogue that's like, "Oh my God, you're just not that good yet. You're just not that good yet. You're just not that good yet. Keep going. You're just not that good yet," which like, it's good and bad. Like it has propelled me to do more and like constantly try to grow and level up and do things like that. But it's also like can get really negative sometimes. And if you think this way, like it could be kind of shitty, like when you're always talking like that to yourself. So one of the ways in which I want to kind of rewire that thinking is by posting this raw as it is unedited to YouTube. And then I can come back, at the end of the 100 days and see like, "Oh my God, like, look how further along I've come." However far that is, right? Like all of this is like, I'm establishing baselines and trying different things out because like at the end of 100 days, I know I'm going to be closer to my goals and the life that I want to live than if I wouldn't do this. How much closer? I don't know. I don't care. It doesn't matter because my goal isn't to make $100,000 in the next 100 days, right? Whatever. If I do, great. If I don't, oh well. My goal is to do an interesting experiment, see what happens, and honestly kind of give myself like an idea for the next 100-day experiment, right? If this thing goes well, I think this would be a cool thing to just keep doing. And maybe I'll roll that into some kind of accountability thing because at some point in the next 100 days, I don't know exactly when, like I want to roll out a content buddies community and focus it more on this action oriented, like record content, do content together, network and things like that, rather than kind of traditional courses where it's like, "Hey, watch this video, try to do it like this." Like, no, like let's just find a way that we can get more and more people just to jump on calls together. And I'll get into more of that maybe later. I don't know. I will do that at some point here, but I'm still kind of working through all of that. And I want to work through it at a pace where I can, uh, oh, wait, I just heard this on, Huberman Labs. He goes, "I am working as fast as I can carefully do so." Right. Um, And that's a big thing for me is I've seen this over and over and over with clients, businesses where they rush headlong into a decision that they didn't really think through, and they did it probably out of scarcity, worrying about their business losing money or not being able to hit some arbitrary goal that they don't even know how they're going to hit. And then they spend the next quarter, 6 months, or even sometimes just a couple weeks before they abandon the project in this constant state of like stress and worry and, oh my God, we have to figure out and do it now. And then almost always ends up breaking it and not working. And I can't tell you like how many times I've seen business owners and coaches launch new products, launch new courses that they rushed through and didn't, because they rushed through it because they thought they need to make all this money, and that they had to rush and launch this thing out to make all this money, never realizing the very fact that they rushed it is the thing that made it not good enough to buy. And now they're not making any money. Whereas like if they would have actually just taken some time to plan out, to put and do it properly, it would have A, been much easier, B, been a lot more fun, and C, would have been very successful, right? Because I've seen, I've also worked with and seen other businesses who do that. And it's very successful. I mean, I'm probably talk about Alex Hormozi a lot because I love him and love the way he thinks. I do believe part of our jobs as content creators in the future is bringing in other people's stuff and introducing our audience to the people that we like and follow, right? So let me finish the Alex Hormozi thing, then we'll go on to that, right? So see, I'm catching myself already not going down some of those rabbit holes and trying to stay on topic, but we're improving, little improvements already, and we're only 30 minutes into this. So what I was going to say is, lost again. So Alex Hormozi, another thing I love about him, bringing content from other creators. He talks a lot about, oh my gosh, what is it now? Nope, we're gonna have to come back to that one. Sorry, I'm really not trying to open loop people here. I did truly forget. I have notes that I really haven't looked at all. So again, we're figuring this out as we go. Could be fun, could be not. I'm having a lot more fun doing this than I thought I was going to, because like I just off doing this for the last like 5 hours. I woke up early thinking I was gonna record content, get that out of the way, and found every other excuse to clean my house, do laundry, all that other stuff. So I'm glad I'm right here. I'm glad I'm doing this. I can tell that my excitement and nervousness is kind of like hiking each other. So like I'm kind of getting to a point where I know I'm rambling a little bit, but that's okay, right? Like that's part of this process. And I think that where we get lost a lot of times is I have conversations like this with friends all the time, and they leave me so invigorated. And I can't tell you like how many times I'm talking to people like, oh my God, you have great insights. I love hearing what you have to say and blah, blah, blah. And you kind of have to go through some of these like, ugh, I wasn't really right. Didn't really kind of like how that came out. Let me try that again. You have to work through some of that stuff. And, I'm just going to kind of jump into my offer again because I've got to practice talking about this anyways. So that's really where all of this is kind of coming from, is I have a new offer that I'm calling the Content Buddy System, where essentially I'm going to hop on a call with you twice a month for 45 minutes. We're going to talk about what's going on in your business, what's going on in your life, hobbies, interests, the things that you actually want to talk about, not the things you think you're supposed to talk about. And it's much easier to do that when you're just having a conversation with me, right? Like I'm here talking to a camera right now, recording this content all by myself because I don't have my content buddy yet. I have different ideas for something I'm going to do with that, more come later. But when I hop on a call with a client and we're sitting there talking and all they're doing is talking to me, they're having a conversation with me and I'm asking them questions, it's much easier, right? It's much easier when you have someone who's just really interested in what you have to say right now and ask you good follow-up questions to take you deeper than having to come up with on your own or sit here with, just a list of topic ideas and try to keep track of them. And, 'cause here, just to tell you how well that goes. I have finished my first bullet point, 100 minutes a day for 100 days. I have not gotten to my second bullet point. The future is personal brands, which I don't know. I guess I could just roll into that now. Why not? I say why not because the only people who are going to know is those who watch 35 minutes into my YouTube video, which I don't think is going to be very many. So everybody else is just going to see a nice, pretty clip that comes after this. And I'm rambling like this right now because my thoughts are still forming about the personal brand stuff. So let's dive in. I believe the future. I believe that the future is going to be largely about building a personal brand. I think everybody is going to have some kind of personal online persona um, that they use to leverage whatever goals they have for life, right? Like I don't think this personal brand stuff and this content creation is always going to be people trying to be full-time content creators, right? I think if you are working within an industry, like if you don't have zero desire to be an entrepreneur, you love working for someone else, talking about the things you're doing, the things you're learning in your industry, the way you're thinking about stuff is going to help you get a better job or get a promotion, right? Like when you come back to your employer and be like, hey, like here's all the things I've done and documented, I've got these videos. Hey, I've got these, thousands of followers or tens of thousands of followers or whatever who like what I have to say and listen to what I have to say. Like that becomes a much more powerful bargaining chip, right? I think also too, you're going to see a lot more company marketing be mixed in with people's personal brands, right? Like you're going to have, your marketers in the company who are going to have conversations with different employees who had various followings in, different industries and stuff like that. And just having these kind of conversations with that, like one day you might be talking to the computer engineers who are building the platform. You might then next be talking about the different people who are manufacturing or whatever thing you sell, or heck, you could be having a HR day where you talk to the different HR people about different HR stuff, and all, because all of this stuff is building evidence of you are who you say you are, right? I think that's the biggest thing that is so lacking online so much. And I see this because I come from a direct response background, right? I used to believe that brand didn't, I hate brand. I hate the idea of putting content out. I'm like, no, like I'm just going to buy traffic. I'm just going to buy attention, right? I'm going to make one piece that I'm going to spend a week or 2 weeks on, that I'm going to make really, really awesome, and then put traffic to it. And that just doesn't work the same way anymore. And it's getting more and more expensive to buy traffic. And even more so if you don't have a brand, because so many people have that question automatically in the back of your mind is, who are you? And like, why should I believe that you are who you say you are? Like I've heard 15 other people in the last 2 days say the same thing and they've got the different solution, right? Everybody else says their way is the only way. Why should I believe you? And the only way you're going to be able to answer that question is by having a bunch of content out there. Now, I think the other thing too, for people who don't want to be, these like full blown entrepreneurs, the way that it seems kind of corporate America is going, and, we'll probably get into that another time, but, prices increasing, inflation, all that stuff. I think you're going to see more and more people using content creation as a supplement to their current job. And we'll get into like AI, because AI is going to like disrupt everything. That's actually my third bullet point. But you're going to see more and more people using content creation as a little side thing, right? Like we're still going to need electricians. We're going to still need plumbers. We're going to still need like a lot of these different jobs and things that AI just simply can't do yet. So we're going to see, like there's a woman I follow on TikTok who is an electrician, talks about what it's like to be an electrician, especially in a male dominated field, especially because I think she does like bigger electrician stuff and, goes out to these cool different job sites and things like that. And she has a great following on that, right? And now she works for someone, but she can now probably get a pay bump for doing some recruiting for her company, right? Or maybe now a different, like, some electric brand is now reaching out to her and it's like, hey, can we pay you to promote our stuff? Or perhaps like she might want to get more women into the whole electric community, electrician community, whatever. Um, you know, and now she's like, hey, like, here's how I studied for it. Here's how I looked at it. Here's like how I thought about it as a woman that made things make more sense to me. And, like I do make that distinction, um, with the woman because, you still see, especially like in some of these fields where it's still like 80-90% men, there's clearly something going on there that makes it seem unappealing for women. And the reverse is true in other industries like nursing. Like nursing is still very female dominated. There's something in there that kind of pushes men away from wanting to become a nurse or doing it. So I think the more technology expands and grows, because I mean, just about everybody has a smartphone now and put their face in front of camera. Obviously, even third world countries, like, man, you're seeing so many like people doing like crazy cool dances, like from Africa. I was in the crypto space for a little bit, and I know that there's a lot of marketing with African dancers doing like just the coolest stuff, right? And what, 5-10 years ago, like they didn't really have those capabilities, and now it's there, and it's only gonna get more and more and more. And I'm excited for it, right? And I think that's what the world needs is more conversations, right? That's kind of part of the idea of this content buddy system and community that I want to create is just to facilitate more and more conversations. Because I've also noticed that in my own content consumption is I default now almost exclusively to interview style content, right? I want to see two people who are really good at something or really passionate about something or spend a lot of time learning about something. I want to see those two people have a conversation and the interesting things that come in to their brains, come out of their mouths, and how it just like melds into something different, right? Because one of my best friends, he always says, there's more room outside of your head than inside. And if you, if you just talk about it, like you can figure out most of your problems, right? Like most of our problems we can solve with a good conversation or two, and then actually doing what we said we were going to do. But overall, what commercials? I think it was a Guinness commercial where they took basically people like who like completely opposing ideologies, put them together to have a beer and have a conversation together. And by the end of it, most of them realized like, oh, you're not this crazy person I thought you were. Like, you're not this like insane person I thought you were. You're actually kind of cool. I would have a beer with you again, right? And if we just have more of those conversations, I think things would go a little bit better because it kind of goes back to what Gandhi who said, if you want to change the world, change yourself first, or if you want to change the world, change your own home first, whatever. But like, I believe on this one. I believe that social media and the rise of the internet has our brains are not capable of understanding or comprehending the ability to talk with so many different people, so many diverse viewpoints in such a short amount of time, right? Like even think when like 2008, let's even say like 2010 and lower, maybe 2012 and lower, like Facebook mostly at that point was mostly like your friends and stuff like that. So if you actually wanted to learn about stuff, get different diverse viewpoints, get different topics, you still had to go to like different forums, several Google searches, A lot of it was, these forums that were very specific, the forum itself, or even just like the post. And you better only talk about the thing in that post, or it's just going to degrade into shit talking, which also fun. And it's sad that we've kind of lost some of that. But now with social media, with a flick of my thumb, I can see two extreme viewpoints. A couple more flicks of my thumb, and I can cover about 15 different topics that I don't know how to synthesize all this. Like I don't know how to comprehend this person telling me one thing, this next person telling me something completely different. Both of them say they have evidence or showing their evidence. I don't know how much is true. And then I got a third person who's like, well, wait, there's this other thing too that no one else is considering. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Right. And I noticed myself that when I spend time on different social media platforms looking at stuff, like I can walk away feeling really recharged and excited. I have a ton of ideas for things I want to do, go create content, go outside, have fun. But then there's these times where I get done scrolling through TikTok or YouTube or Facebook, something like that. I'm just like, my God, I don't want to deal with the world right now. Like, I don't want to talk to anybody, even the people I love. Like, this is just too much. I just need a break. And I want to figure out how I can walk away from my social media experiences feeling more like that energized version rather than the shut down version. And, what I believe the future is going to be is we're going to go back to more of these kind of siloed forum style app sites, whatever they end up being, AI messaging bots, I don't know. More focused on singular topics and topics that are very interest based, right? I think that's the thing. Like I'm a big fan of school. And I think that's going to be a big thing where you go into a community, like, yeah, you have access to all these different communities, but you spend the time in a specific community kind of on a specific topic, and then you just go on to the next one, right? Like I would love to have more feeds like that, right? Rather than my Facebook or my TikTok where like I never really know what I'm going to get. And it could be all these different things because, there's times where like, hey, right now, like I just want to go like all the way down the gardening rabbit hole. Like I just want to like consume a bunch of information about that and kind of figure something out from there. Other times like, I just need to kind of relax in the night. I'm looking for something funny, something entertaining, and I just want to see content around that. And it's hard to when we leave it all up to the algorithms. Like I have a kid, and it's amazing to see his technology experience at 12 versus mine, right? Because when I was 12, we had gotten a computer. My mom worked from home, so like we actually had like dedicated internet, and I couldn't use it until she was done working. And I just remember I'm like, well, this kind of stinks. I don't want to do that. So I went and figured out how to splice her internet so that I could put it to the home computer and that she could work and I could be on the computer when most of my friends, like they couldn't even be on if someone wanted to use the phone. And that just started this like curiosity of mine of like, how do I fix this? How do I tinker with this? How do I make this the way I want it to? Versus now where I see like my son and all of his friends, they're almost completely beholden to the algorithm, right? Everything that I've seen from kind of his experiences, like they just, if they don't like something, they flip, right? And then just keep doing that until it kind of gets on to something that they like. And then they hope the algorithm takes it from there. He doesn't really have any of those kind of like research and searching skills that I had already started to develop because things were just so much more difficult back then. So I don't know, and it's a weird place that we're in, like that's the best way I can put it after being in social media for the last 10 years, starting this when Facebook ads, still had all the crazy targeting. You could do incomes and they had the credit card information, things like that. And, you could still, I started advertising on Facebook back when you could still show before and after pictures, for fitness ads. Um, I don't think it was ever like fully like I don't think you were ever supposed to. It's just the technology wasn't there, and we were able to do it. So seeing that versus now, right? Like it's crazy. It's crazy difference. And I think the biggest problem is like we just don't know how to handle it. And it's been a really interesting experiment that hasn't gone as well as we had hoped it would. Um, so it's an interesting time, and I'm super stoked about all of this. And after being 50 minutes, 50 into this, I'm having a lot more fun than I thought I would. And I actually like I'm gonna try to record these like all the way through at some point. I don't think I'm quite at that point now, so I'm gonna shut it down. I have to do a client call here, and then I'm gonna pick it back up for the last 50 minutes of it. But I have to say, like I'm feeling more excited now than when I started. Like I was just really the whole time, like, man, I'm just gonna be sitting there the whole time and wondering what to say, and there's gonna be these huge pauses. It's gonna be so awkward. It's gonna be so stupid. And I'm like, no, I pretty much talk most of the time. Like stuff's come out. I don't know where it's all come from. Don't know what's gonna happen with it. Don't know if I'm gonna get 5 clips out of this or 3 or 30. I don't know. Um, but it's been fun. It's been a lot more fun, and I'm more looking forward to doing my next batch later this afternoon. Maybe actually like getting to some of these topics. That was the other thing too. Like I was so worried. Like I'd spent way more time trying to come up with these topic ideas than um, I really need to spend on them. I'm like, oh my God, like I only have like 10 here. Like, what if I get through all these in like 15 minutes? What if I just power through all these? And it's like, huh, I haven't even got to number 3. So I think we're going to do okay there. Really excited to see how this starts to flesh itself out and to formalize and what I learn and how everything improves over time. And be able to look back at the end of the 100 days and just see the big, like what kind of difference it makes. Like, I don't know. Like I'm, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't want to make any predictions. I also know like I have that perfectionist mindset too, where like I want to figure everything out, know every possibility, and outcome and things like that before I start stuff and try to have contingencies for all of them. And so I made a promise to myself that the only measure of success for these 100 days is if I record the 100 minutes, post the whole thing on YouTube, and then get clips edited and posted onto the other social medias. However many clips it is, I don't know. Again, like it's recording this and just getting it out there, right? Once we're done with this, we'll figure out what I learned, what I do. I'm sure things will come up as I go, right? That's the other thing too, is like I'm gonna learn stuff as I go. I'm gonna learn things that I didn't know now that I would never even thought to put into my whatever perfect plan, just by doing this. And I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm super excited for it, and I can't wait to see what happens by the end of it. Mm. And I do have just a couple more minutes here, so like I'm gonna just ramble on with one final thing while it's on my mind is, and so I'm gonna take a pause to think of how I want to work. So I want to put it into a good, hopefully a good succinct clip. Um, I love the idea of building in public. I love following, designers and things like that. I know it can be not as great for bigger companies, and there's a lot of different thoughts on it. But like, I love the idea of building in public because, again, I think it kind of plays into this idea of like people just wanting to see what's going on in other people's lives and being interested or curious because it allows us to live a life that we don't necessarily want to live, but we're curious about, right? Like, I like watching Alex Hormozi's content because I think it's really interesting to hear how someone that successful thinks and the stuff that's on their brain and the topics that they think are worth talking about. I have zero interest in putting in the level of work and dedication, the sacrifices that he's made to get to that point, right? But I want to distill some of those and some of the wisdom that he's learned and see how I can take those pieces to live a better life the way I want to, right? So how I can take, that rule of 100 that he's used to be so successful and apply it to my content, build up my business so that I can garden more, right? And then I'll be able to take those lessons, right? I'll get to a point where it's like, hey, I've gotten my business hours down to such a point that I can spend, 4 hours a day working on my garden, or, 6 hours a day learning how to rock climb, or whatever it might be. Because that's interesting too, right? There is something interesting and valuable about creating a life or figuring out how to run your life so that you can do more of the things that you are really interested and passionate about and less of the things that you aren't, right? We keep hearing no one wants to work, no one wants to work. And it's not that. It's people don't want to do this stupid, mundane work that sucks their souls for companies who don't care about them. But they do want to work. People do want to do something. And I think if the more that we can use content and put ourselves out there and create followings of people who are interested in our stuff, we can do that. Because here's at the end of the day, there's that 1,000 true fans. If you can find 1,000 people to pay you $1,000 a year, that's $1 million a year in revenue, which for most people is way more than enough, right? I think a lot of people would be happy with making 6 figures a year, $250,000 a year, $500,000 a year, right? So when you even look into terms like that, if your goal is only to make $100,000 a year to start with, that's 1,000 people paying you $100 a year, right? Or 100 people paying you $1,000 a year. That seems a lot more doable. That seems a lot easier to build and to start creating content for if you realize that you only need 100 people or a couple hundred people to pay you money to make a decent living, a living that you can be happy with. I think if you can then couple that with intentionality, and knowing the kind of life that you want to lead and what it's going to cost and what you actually want to do with that time and all that money that you want to make, you're going to realize that you probably don't need as much money as you want. And that pursuit of money is what keeps you from doing the things you love. I can't tell you, I would say probably most of the last 3-4 years of my freelancing journey, I have not been doing the things that I've enjoyed doing in this quest for making more money and building a freelancing or business or whatever it was, up to a certain dollar amount, because I thought that I needed that accolade to create content, to coach, to build business, to whatever it was. I thought I needed those accolades of hitting that revenue goal, even though if you're ClickFunnels, people have got two Common Club awards behind me from clients I've helped, grow their funnels to over $1 million each. So I have done stuff, and I was just using the incorrect metrics for success. So that's part of my 100-day too, is I'm going to work on and figure out more of what exactly I want to do, how I want to spend all my time, what's that going to cost, what do I have to do work-wise, business-wise, career-wise to be able to do more of those things, right? If I can take off 2.5 weeks in the winter and go on a couple snowboarding trips to cool places, that sounds way better than making an extra 15 or 20 grand. If I can take off an entire month in summer and go camping or travel or work on my garden or work on house projects, right? Because I bought a house last year too that I want to remodel. I love working with my hands. I love remodeling and building things. So I want to do more of that, right? I'm not I'm not the kind of person that enjoys sitting at my computer all day and pounding keyboard. Like no matter how much I love doing, the thing I love doing, like I need to move. I need to be doing other things, right? Like if I haven't left my hometown, um, in too long, I will just go for like a 2 or 3 hour drive somewhere just to be in a different place. Like I am definitely nomadic by nature. My buddy tells me he's just waiting for the day where like all of my online presence disappears and I tell him that I'm moving out to a cabin in the woods. And I would like to do that. Not get rid of all my online stuff, but like get to a point where I can spend more time doing the other stuff, doing interesting things and bring back that and talk about it. And also maybe help inspire other people to be more intentional about their lives, right? Like I'm not going to be talking to the hard charging type A business people who are looking to scale to 100K months and implement systems and blah, 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 and then be business owners and stuff like that. And it's like, no, like creative at heart. I'm an artist at heart who just happens to also like math and order and things like that. So business kind of sort of makes sense. But also it makes sense in the fact that like I don't listen to other people well. And I know there's a ton of other people out there who are similar mindsets. I mean, like pretty much all artists, right? Like that's kind of a big thing I've learned over the last year as I've really gotten more into TikTok and really more into this content stuff and, helping other people with their content, build their content despite not making enough for myself. More on that another time. That was dumb. Start making content now, please. But as I've learned about this, I've come and seen more and more and more creators who are those artist type and who have really cool and interesting things to say. And then I also like kind of in the same breath, like hear about all these other creators who are relying on views or brand deals or things like that to make any kind of money, and getting nowhere or really struggling when I'm sitting here going like, oh my God, like they could easily monetize their audience if they knew just a little bit of direct response marketing. They just knew a little bit about how to put out a cool offer, lead magnet, free thing that people like and start to grow an email list and use a little bit of software to help deliver that. And like, there's so many different ways that you can monetize your audience beyond just hoping for views or looking for brand deals or affiliate links. And I think I can help some people do that. Hopefully. I don't know, maybe, but like, that's what I want to do. And that's what sounds like a lot of fun for me right now. And, like thankfully I'm at a point where, I have the ability to do that. And I have the ability to say, hey, for the next 100 days, like this is going to be my main focus. And this is going to be the main thing I do is like my most important task for the day and see how that, comes out and what comes of it. So I don't know. Again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm super stoked for it. I'm super excited. I've got to run off to a call here, but got another about 40 minutes of content to record when I'm done. And I'm even more excited to do that than I was when I started. So back soon. All right. And we are back. First, I didn't have this in my original notes that I haven't stuck to at all. But that's okay. And what I want to start by saying here as I get back into this, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be very intentional about the clients you work with, right? I just got off the call with some clients I've built in some automations and stuff out for, and they are awesome guys. A lot of fun to talk to. Like I would hang out with them outside of this. Like I actually want to like plan a trip and go down there and go see them because they're such cool people. And the most important thing that I can say to that is like find people who match the same kind of like energy, drive, vision that you have, because there's so many different ways that you can build a business, even within the same industry, right? That you just gotta find people that want to do it a similar way that you do. Obviously not exactly the same, but like I've worked with clients who have very different ideas of how they want to grow and build their business. And that's great. It just doesn't lend well to my skill set, temperament, I want to have a business, how I want to work and stuff like that. So things like that are never going to work. Right. And it's less important on a project by project basis, but if you're going to work with any client long term, multiple months for a year, something like that, be a bigger project they're going to implement with them. It's just so important to make sure you find that people fit first and not just can you do the work for them, right? So if you are in this, if you've been struggling with clients, if you haven't quite find, success or like the clients you work with, like really spend some time figuring out who you like to work with and how you like to work, and just be very upfront about that in your onboarding process, in your sales process, different things like that. Just say, hey guys, like this is what I like to do. And it was funny because they actually commended me when I got on the call because I just got back from a family vacation. They're like, man, we're so impressed that like you were able to set that boundary and then just like we didn't hear from you at all that week. I was like, yeah, I made that promise to my son that I wasn't going to work on this trip. And that's very important to me to keep that because, that's something where I value that time with him. And as he's getting older, I want to spend more time doing those things with him. And I don't want to be the dad who works all the time. Right. And I know like there are other people out there who have different views and different values, and like they want to work all the time and show their kids that like if you hustle and if you put in the effort and do all that, you can achieve and build anything you want, right? And that's valuable and that's what's important to them. And those are lessons that they want to teach. And I want to teach something different to my kid. Like I want to show him that you can enjoy the work you do on your time, right? And I want him to understand and know like the consequences of that, the realities of making this decision over that decision, things like that. I think that's just super important. And I think just as a general point, growing up, we don't really learn how to make decisions, learn how to think through decisions. We don't learn how to understand if like this is really a true want and desire that we have, or if this is something that's been given to us or constructed by someone else that we think we should follow. Because I know I've fallen into that trap many times before where I chased a dream or chased something someone else wanted, right? A big example, non-business wise, was I spent 12 years probably just obsessed with nutrition, weightlifting, things like that, because I always wanted to be over 200 pounds at sub 10% body fat. Like I graduated high school at 6 feet tall and 135 pounds, like just this scrawny kid. And I didn't like that. So I wanted to build up, this body and, look like a Greek god and all that. And when I finally did it after 12 years, it was really tough for me. I mean, like I'm a hard gainer, ate a lot, ate so much, tracked, everything like that. And when I finally reached it, I was like, wow, I didn't actually want this thing. Like it hurt. It's really hard. Like most of my life revolves around eating in the gym. And I don't really like that. So after that and achieving that goal, it made me take a step back and be like, wow, you spent over a decade achieving this thing that now that once you have it, you really don't even like fitness anymore. Right. And like after that, it was really tough for me to go to the gym. I just didn't have a goal or any reason I cared about going to the gym anymore because the thing that I've been working so hard to get, I didn't actually want it. It took a little bit, but I finally figured out like, I want to be able to use my body. I want it to be functional and things like that. I started doing jujitsu and I love jujitsu and I had so much fun doing jujitsu. And it was this great new athletic endeavor that I could push my body and do things. And that finally got me interested in fitness again, but also meant that I didn't have to try to maintain that, really high body weight. I fell back to a weight that's easy for me to maintain, that I'm still strong at, I still like the way I look at, but it's now more functional, more useful, right? Like I coach my kids' sports teams. I can run with them and like I play softball in the summer. I can do all that stuff. And I remember before when I was really deep into powerlifting, like I had zero cardio and there was no way I could do any of that stuff. So really, really so important to figure out what exactly you want and then create your life around that. And that's going to be a lot of what I'm exploring with this kind of 100-day challenge here is like figuring out what exactly the business I kind of want to build, and the life that I kind of want to lead with that and how I can marry those two, so it creates value for the world that people are going to pay me for. And that sounds like a fun experiment. And that sounds like something fun to do. And I'm just excited for it. And I'm excited to work with more clients who are like that. And I know I'm going to find them because by putting out all this content, that's just my ramblings, my thoughts on life, my ideas on things, my ways of marketing, doing business, like what I see based on everything I know, it's going to naturally start to attract different clients and different people who think that same way, who want to run their business the same way, who want to do similar things as me. And that's going to just have such a better filtering mechanism and upfront fit. So I know that when I talk to people, they're going to know everything I'm about, right? Up until this point, the last 10 years, I've mostly worked almost exclusively on referrals. Been fortunate enough that do good enough work that people promote me to other people. But every single time I have to come in and kind of set and establish those boundaries, who I am, what I do, how I work, my views on marketing, things like that, right? So this way, I'm just getting a lot of that out and over with on the front end and making sure that only the people who have those similar views and ways that they want to do business reach out to me. I think that's pretty cool. And I think when you start looking at creating your content that way, it's going to make content creation so much easier because like really this is just about sharing the parts of your life that you think are interesting and worth putting in public, right? I'm not going to talk about everything I do in my life. There's private things. I think that's really important that I keep private life. And then in real life, there's things I do in real life and people I hang out with that have no idea what I do. And that's okay, right? I think that separation is good. But I also believe that, as I was saying earlier, we're going to see more and more of that online persona and personality becoming a bigger part of helping us reach whatever goals we have. And if you really just like take that step and start putting yourself out there, it's going to make life easier for you. It's going to make life better for you when you have that fun, because even at the very worst, so like a client I've worked with for the last 2, almost 3 years doing their content stuff, they've gotten at least 2, and I think 3 C-level job offers because of their content, right? They've had people reach back out to them who didn't want to do business with them before. That goes, oh my God, I didn't realize you were so smart, done all this and do all this. Like, I really love to work with you now. And that's super cool to me, right? Just think about that for a second. Like, imagine like a sales call that went wrong, or like you're trying to network with someone who didn't realize you knew what you knew. Like, you don't have anything out there, but they're like, no thanks. Versus going and talking with someone or someone looking you up before they ever get on the phone with you and be like, wow, like I just watched like 2 hours of your stuff, or like I just watched like 10 of your videos. And I really love this. Like, it's a whole different conversation. It's a whole different conversation, even if like you're but like when you're running ads, right, it makes all of your media buying so much cheaper, so much better, because even if someone doesn't convert right away or doesn't book a call right away, they're still now introduced to your world and they can see all this other content that you've created, all these other things that you're talking about. And you never know what's going to push someone over the edge, right? That's kind of the craziest thing to me with this whole like funnel concept. Like, I really hate the idea of a marketing funnel because it is just it's more like a marketing calendar. And that's not even a great word either. I mean, maybe a funnel calendar, but the marketing funnel just is not a good analogy of how people buy, how they make decisions, things like that. You can't force people into a buying decision that they're not ready to make. Like, yeah, great copy and having everything dialed in and stuff like that can definitely increase conversions. But when you look at these numbers, like, we're talking about 0.5%, 3% conversion rates on cold traffic. And like, that's still expensive now. And that's such a tiny, to me, that seems like such a huge mismatch in messaging. Only 1 to 3 out of 100 people who see your stuff really interact with you that way. And I think what it's more like, and what it's becoming more of and will become more of, is going back to that kind of local word of mouth thing, right? Go back to before the internet, we made decisions on who we want to work with or what businesses we want to um, go to because we knew the owner, because someone in our town knew the owner, because they were a local celebrity, something like that, where we knew of them through other things, you look at real estate agents, like how many real estate agents get a lot of their leads and sales and stuff like that because being known around town. Like I have a good friend who's a very successful agent in his city, and that guy is involved in everything. People know him from so many different aspects of his life that they come to him for the real estate stuff when they really probably haven't even heard a ton about him, like real estate wise. It's just because they like him as a person, like got a great design eye, very fashion forward, has a dog, involved in different community things, involved in the Chamber of Commerce, like all these different things that don't have anything specifically to do with real estate, but build that know, like, and trust factor, right? And that's what all this content is. So it's really not about finding the perfect hooks and, copying what these other people in this space are saying. And it's like, no, it's talking about things that you're interested in, both like with your personal life, like the other cool things you do outside of business, and the cool stuff that you're doing within your business, clients you're working with, what you see, predictions, all of that kind of stuff plays into it. And when you start to think like that, making content becomes a lot easier. I'm saying that as I'm kind of going through that process right now. I hate creating content. I'm going to pause and back that up. I love the idea of creating content. I'm always been fearful of putting myself out there and putting something out there that somebody is like, oh my God, you're totally wrong. It's like, okay, that's okay. I can be wrong. We're all wrong. Right. But the first, 60 minutes of this that I recorded was just things that started coming up because I just want to talk about something interesting. Like I said, like I only got through the first 2 bullet points of these 10 or so that I've written up for today. And maybe I've touched on a few more here and there, but it has been really easy to just talk into the microphone, excuse me. Have I stumbled over my words and backed up? Yeah, fine. Great. I'm not trying to make a polished YouTube video big deal. Probably get at least, 3 or 5 clips out of this I can put on social media. That's more than I had before. But at the end of the day, like thinking of this as I'm just trying to share insights and ideas and things I find interesting. And over time, it's going to find the right people. And I think that's the only way that you can really build a long-term sustainable brand, and if you just follow like the viral tactics or do the dances or all of that kind of stuff, like it's going to be a very watered down brand and you're just going to be constantly chasing the next viral trend or things like that, hoping to be able to figure out a way to fit your unique message and persona into this cookie cutter viral template that you just sound like everybody else then, right? I mean, like if you have to follow this viral framework where you have this hook like this, and then these parts, like you don't have the freedom to actually say the thing that you need to say. And I want to see more people doing that because that's where the cool stuff is. That's where the interesting stuff is, right? That's why I love listening to interviews because it's not this effort to be viral. It's not these scripted perfect things. It's 2 people having a conversation about topics that they're really interested in, hopefully very knowledgeable about, and just riffing and going and seeing what happens and what comes out. And I think that's super cool. And I want to do more of that. I want to see more people do more of that. Like I want to interview more people like that. And the only way you can do this is start putting content out there. Like I'm going to figure out what I need to say just by the nature of doing this, right? I mean, like if I'm doing this thing for 100 days in a row, spending 100 minutes talking in front of this camera, like I'm going to figure it out eventually, right? Like if you shoot, my son loves basketball right now. I sat, made him take 100 free throw shots every day for 100 days. Probably going to get pretty good at free throws. Even if he knows nothing about free throws and never made a basket before, by under the 100 days, he's probably going to be making more free throws than he's not. Even if he hasn't gotten courses, didn't watch any YouTube videos, didn't get a mentor, any of that stuff. Just by doing the thing a lot of times right away, you're going to get pretty good. I think from that point, then behooves you to hire a mentor or coach or different things like that. But I think too many people I see buy courses or programs or things like that, trying to learn that one secret. I'm very guilty of this. I've spent way too much money on courses I've never completed, hoping for that one little thing that is do it all. And the truth is, I never actually did the work, right? I just kept looking for that thing, and what I need to do is just do the work. So if I just do the work now, I'm going to figure it out, right? And this first video, I don't know if it gets 10 views. If one person watches the whole thing, I'd be absolutely shocked. But maybe by the end of this, people are watching the whole thing. Maybe I'm that interested at that point. Maybe I've figured it out at that point. I don't know. Maybe by the end of this, the 100 minutes of content that I do every day, it ends up being 10 YouTube videos that are each 10 minutes long. And I've figured out a process where I can nail those, just bust those out. I don't know. But I'm excited to try that. I'm excited to figure it out. I think that's kind of really the thing that most people are looking for right now, is something that they can just be excited to keep doing for a while, right? I think many of us today are just not excited about anything that we're doing. We don't have a job or a career that really excites us like our parents or grandparents did, something that we feel like we can just do forever, or whatever it might be. And then, we're sitting alone watching Netflix and getting more depressed because we're not doing anything. And the other thing too, going back to like the Content Buddy network community that I want to build, like putting out this content, getting people attracted to joining that and interested in recording content with others. Like that sounds like a cool thing too. Cause like what sounds better, if you have nothing to do on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, instead of like Netflix or bars or whatever, schedule a call with someone to talk about something you're both interested in. Like that sounds pretty cool. For one, it's a fun time. Like it's a great way to kind of like socialize with someone rather than staying home alone, because like self-isolation or isolation is really terrible for humans. And it's something very easy to do if you're depressed or sad or, not great in any way, because it is so hard to make plans and do things with people a lot of times now. But yeah, it gives you that social connection. And then two, like you get content out of it, right? That's the other thing I want to do. It's like, how do we make creating content, interesting content, good content, a natural part of our day-to-day tasks, right? How do we just incorporate that more so that it doesn't feel like a chore, become a chore, right? Because like that's my biggest fear / concern right now, is that over the course of this 100 days, like I am making excuses that life is getting in the way, or I'm too busy, or I don't have anything to say, like anything. My brain, I'm sure, is going to find every excuse in the book multiple times on like why I should record content right now, why I should do it later, and then later and later, and then the day's over. But if you have someone that you like talking to, if you have a content buddy or just other people that you can schedule a call with and now it's a meeting, you're not going to miss that, right? You're not going to let that person down because they're expecting you to show up too, have a good conversation with you. So that makes it a lot easier, right? And that's also kind of where I guess like that's kind of gets into bullet point 3. So I guess let's see what we get from there. Kind of. So AI, right? AI content conundrum. You've probably seen it. I've definitely seen it. I know people who are doing it. They're using AI to create, a bunch of faceless content, or using avatars and AI script and all that stuff to produce these videos of them talking that sounds like them, looks like them, saying stuff that's kind of what they would say, but it's not, right? And I think I can tell more often than not when content is AI, it just lacks that soul. It lacks just a little something that lets you know a real human experience is behind this, right? Because that's the thing that AI will never be able to do. It will never be able to fully understand the limited, unique experiences that each of us have, right? There's a big difference between AI who can all of the experiences, right? We'll have a point where I'm sure AI will be completely integrated with our phones and lives and stuff like that, where it can build like or knows everything, all the experiences. But to only have the certain unique human experiences that I have, that you have, or business partner, your wife, husband, or whoever has, like, it will never be able to replicate that because it will never know the limitations of only having that information, those little like flaws and not, like this, right? Like fake it as much as you want for AI, but like that kind of pause of like, I just forgot that, or what's the way I want to say that, or saying it wrong the first time and coming back and saying it a better way the second time. Like all of those things, I don't AI will be able to do. Maybe it will someday, and who knows? But up until that point, I think the best way that you can kind of use, you know, like I think right now the best thing that someone can do for building their brand, what I'm going to do is do face to camera like this. None of this is going to be AI generating content. I'm not going to AI script it. I will use AI to help with like topics and ideas and do some research and things like that. I think that's a great use for AI. But coming up here and talking into this camera or interviewing people, I think that needs to be human. And I think to really create a brand, um, you're going to have to do that. I think people are going to want that more, especially as this year, 2024 in the United States, we're going into election year with two very contested people. Like it is going to be a complete circus as far as AI generated content goes for all of this. And I think that's going to burn a lot of people out. And they're going to really just want this facing camera, vlog style, hold the phone up, that kind of stuff. And we're going to see that be the big thing coming forward later. Um, that's another great kind of insight that I just had here. Like one thing that I know is a struggle for me is finishing thoughts, right? Like my brain kind of races so far ahead sometimes. I just kind of keep going down these rabbit holes and I say something that triggers another idea and then I branch off. So like I will at times, many times, just very abruptly end a thought because I've kind of ran out of places to go and I don't quite succinctly wrap it up or tie it up, which I don't know. It could work for short form stuff. They do in a way kind of talk in sound bites. I've noticed that with Ray and being in marketing for a while, I do kind of have some of those nice pithy pithy things like I do know how to throw out like just naturally like call outs or hooks and things like that. But as far as like long form content, something where I'm trying to go deeper into an idea, I'm not great at that yet, and that's okay. Um, I'm going to get better with doing this, right? I have these content ideas that I've listed out there in a semi-coherent order that I haven't followed. But over time, I'll get better at that. I will follow it more closely. It'll be much more interesting, engaging content, hopefully. Um, but it all gets better at time, right? And I just have to do it. That's the only way to make it happen. Is just you keep doing it. So that's why I'm showing for the 100 days, 100 minutes a day, seeing what happens. Um, let's see. What else do I? Oh, I kind of touched on this before. I don't know if I've quite gone down the road enough. I would probably sidetrack. But to kind of reiterate or reset, the content that I'm making, the people that I want to attract, the people that I want to have more conversations with, and hopefully either become clients or become part of this community that I want to build, are more of those solopreneurs and small business owners who are doing this to create a life outside of business, right? Like, I had friends who are wildly successful, makes tons of money, want to build giant businesses, on their way to making $100 million, $1 billion companies and things like that. And it's really cool and so impressive. And what they do just blows my mind every single time I talk to them. But the stresses that they have to deal with are not the stresses I enjoy dealing with. I have zero interest in doing it, right? They're always like putting out fires, having to talk to, 15 different people in a day, at the mercy of everybody else's schedule most of the time because they have to, the moving pieces, people need them and stuff like that. And like, that's not the business I want to build. That's not the life I want to have. That's not the career I want to create for myself. I want something that is more intentional where my time is mine to do with what I want so I can explore different things and new projects and think deeply about stuff and spend my time working intentionally at a fast as carefully possible, right? I think that's a big thing that I think is gonna stick in my head right now. It's fast as carefully possible. Um, and it's not quite the right word because I think there needs to be seasons of fast and seasons of slow, right? Like you need to, like this, 100 days of content, 100 minutes a day. That's a lot. That's moving fast. Like going from no content to recording 100 minutes every day for 100 days. Like just about any coach would be like, why don't we just start with like post one video a day, right? Like that would be reasonable, but I don't want to be reasonable in this case. I want to go fast because I want to, right? I don't want to do it because I have to or someone else tells me to or anything like that. And I want that freedom that I go fast, do this for 100 days, see what happens, and then take time to reassess, build, fix. I don't know, right? I don't know what things are going to look like at the end of 100 days. And to just have this idea in my head, I'm just going to keep going at this speed. And then I just have to do more because of that, like I did this and now I have to do more because I, did all this. Like, no, I don't want that. I want to come back and be like, how beneficial was it to do this much content this quickly? Would I be better off doing less content, spending more of that time focusing on like what I should be saying in theirs? I don't know. Right. But I want that option. And I can be like, hey, it's time to go slow. Right. I learned all this. Now I need to implement. Now I need to fix. Now I need to build. And that way I can kind of have this iterative approach to success where I never lose sight of the life I'm trying to create. Like I kind of have the last few years here where I have just constantly worked and worked and worked and trying to make money. And then I realize I'm not actually doing the things that I'm making this money for, right? Like I'm sacrificing all the activities and all the other things that I want to do in pursuit of making this money so that I can do these things. Or if I just, it's like the parable of the Mexican fisherman and the business owner, right? And essentially, go look it up. It's really good. But the short version of it is businessman comes and sees a Mexican fisherman pulling up his boat or like mid-morning, has a couple fish in there. The guy gets out and the businessman goes, oh my God, those fish are beautiful. What a great catch. Why are you coming back so early? You only have a couple here. Fisherman says, well, I just catch enough for, feed my family, sell a few at the market, and then I spend the rest of my day taking a siesta with my wife, playing with my amigos, drinking wine, having dinner with friends, spending time with my children. And essentially, this businessman walks him through this whole kind of like 20-year process of how he can stay out longer, more fish, buy bigger boats, buy more boats, and just build up to this, giant thing. And 20 or 30 years, retire, sell everything, rich as all get out, and then retires to a small Mexican fishing village where he does everything that he's doing right now. Right. So like, that's not, I want the Mexican fisherman, right? I want to be that. I don't want to be the business owner who waits 20 years to do that. And I feel very confident in that now, especially after seeing so many of these coaches and gurus and people that I've kind of looked up to in my own marketing career that bought courses from, followed their content, things like that for years, only to see their lives get progressively worse. And, to the point where so many of these are like, kind of blow up their businesses or completely shut down their businesses or totally take a different route because they hated their life, right? They built something they hated. And, great, maybe they're better off because they have all this money now, and they can do the next thing. I don't know. I don't want to find out. I would like to try the other way first and see. So I don't know, right? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm excited to find out. And, like I said, this content right now is for me. This is to do it for myself, to learn something new, right? To get back into that curious student mindset, that beginner mindset, figuring something out. Cause that's, when I learned copywriting, right? The way I learned copywriting was just by writing a lot. And even before I was directly in copywriting, I used to be a horrible writer. I used to be a C&D writer until I got to college and took a class that forced me to write a ton, and then entered a major where I was writing anywhere between 5 and 10 pages a week amongst all my different classes, right? So for like my last 2 years of college, I was writing a ton all the time. And then I got to be a good writer. And then when it came to be the marketing, like it just came very naturally. And the reason why I'm a good writer now is because I've done it so much. And I want to get back to that. I want to get back to something new that I can learn and new skill and develop that and play with that. And, funny enough, as I'm kind of looking over my notes and topic ideas here, I've covered a lot of these in different ways in my ramblings, much more than I thought. So I'm just going to run, I've got a few minutes left here. So I'm just going to run through them and see how well I did on this. So we did the 100 days of content, came back and forth on that. The future's personal brands. I know I talked about that. Yeah. Content conundrum. I did that. How I think and see marketing is changing. I don't know. I kind of put that as a half-ish, right? I talked a little bit about that, but maybe that's something that's worth going more on tomorrow or something like that. Why is creating content so hard? Talked a little bit about that. Algorithms versus humans. Okay, this is a good one. So where I think we've gone so long in the content production, and this will be a longer topic because it gets into like a lot more, but essentially why creating content is so difficult for so many people is because they feel like they need to create for the algorithm and not the human, right? So like they're trying to do all these things to go viral and get the hook and fuss with that, and then feeling like absolute garbage because they can't seem to make it work as easy as what they were promised because they're creating stuff for the algorithm. It just feels unnatural. Like you can always kind of tell when someone is trying to say the thing they think they should say rather than the thing that they want to say. I think a lot of that happens when you're creating content for the algorithm instead of creating content for the human. At the beginning, I believe you should create for you, right? You should start saying the thing that you wanted to say. Like a lot of this 100 days of content for me is going to just be me thinking about all the things that I've talked with it private with clients, with friends, just different people in the industry that have been like, wow, that's a really good idea. I like that idea. More people should know about that. Or, vice versa. I've had many conversations with people that had told me over and over again, it's like, wow, I really like your insight or your idea on that, or how you think about that thing. Like, you need to tell more people this. I think that's going to make creating content a lot easier, right? So if you have been struggling to create content, you don't like creating content, maybe it's because you're trying to create content for the algorithm or a specific person that you think you should create it like, or anything like that. And maybe just try creating content for you, creating content for humans, and see where that gets you. I don't know. I'll report back. Talked about the virality fallacy, right? Even if you did go viral, how much good would it do your business? It more than likely would probably tank it, right? Like, let's just touch on that one more time. Imagine you had a piece of content go viral, people absolutely loved it, and then you had, 50 times as many orders come in for whatever the thing is, or, if you're working with a service or one-on-one or some kind of group thing, having an additional 50 times, whether it's 50 people all sign up in a week or 500 or 5,000 people buy your thing, like, it's going to break. It's going to break your business, and it's going to be a terrible experience for these people. And you're probably going to end up with a net negative because you're now going to have these 50, 500, 5,000 people who didn't know about you before, all saying bad things. Don't do business with this person because, they're a scam. They're a charlatan. They can't fulfill on their order. Like, it came broken, or, you have to quickly try to scale. So now the quality goes down, right? All those kind of things are stuff that people don't really take into consideration when they try to go viral. And I believe, just kind of popped in my head, so let's see where this goes. I think too many people are trying to go viral in hopes of getting paid by the platform. And that is a really ineffective business model, right? It's a great way to, like, if you can make money, like if you can talk about topics, or if you like talking about topics that are widely appealing and you can make some money from these like creator accounts that Facebook, TikTok, and all of them are doing, that's great. That's a nice little boost to get you going, but it will be very difficult to build any kind of sustainable long-term business if you are always relying on a platform to pay you on views, right? You're always then beholden to the specific ways that they want you to talk about things, whether overtly or covertly, depending on platform and what you believe in things. But like, you instead, if you create human-focused content that attracts humans to be interested in what you have to say, what you have to sell, the community that you want to create, the experiences that you want people to have, things like that. Now you just have to work, like, you don't have to worry about the platforms anymore because those people will follow you, right? I mean, it comes down to like, you always have email. I mean, you always can call people, right? Like, if you have people who like you and like what you have to say, they don't care where they hear it from. They just want to hear it. So you always be a step ahead in a better position if you can learn how to make that human content and then figure out how to get people to be happy to pay you to create more content, right? And I'm going to leave off there because it is 100 minutes that we're at. And I'm going to leave that as a kind of an open thing and maybe start tomorrow and go down there. I don't know. I might totally forget by then. But this was a lot more fun than I was expecting it to be. And I'm now more excited to record something tomorrow. Now, the fun part of figuring out an efficient and effective way to quickly get all this edited and posted. So yeah, that's the next problem solved. See you guys tomorrow.